Hello and welcome to another edition of One on One. I'm your host, Tyler Small, and today we are joined by yet another notable alum from the LaSalle University family. It is Steve Graham. He is a video editor and producer for NBC Sports Philadelphia. Steve, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. So we're going to dive right into it now. Before we get into the main point of these episodes, which is how the pandemic has affected you and your field of work, give us a normal day-to-day on what you would usually be doing, maybe even like a month before this, where you're in the midst of the NBA season. What would you normally be doing on a day of work?
Sure. Well, if it's a game day, your typical tip-off is about 7, and I'll be getting into the office around 4:30. Prepare some pregame elements. We'll be putting together basically a preview video for the game, in which I will ship off to our social media manager. That has such a short shelf life, so we like to get that on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Just give you an idea of, who the key matchups are for that game, what the betting info is. Sports betting is so big today. Notable injuries before the game. And then after that's prepared, it's tip-off's underway, and we're getting highlights together as the game commences, and as the game goes final, then we're preparing for the post-game sound as players and coaches react to the outcome of the game, and as well as getting a full game highlight and any of the biggest storylines. And that'll take you usually about 2:00 in the morning. So that's your typical day of when a game commences, and then on the days that there are not games, you're either working on, maybe a long-term project of, another player interview that you got, months before, and you're putting together a storyline on that, or a big game's coming up and you're preparing content for that. So you're definitely always staying busy.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way. But now kind of flash forward to where we are today, having had a game since, I believe, March 12th is when the NBA shut down. What have you been keeping busy? What have you kind of done to keep content out there? Because on the My Team's app, you're pretty much the sole contributor for the 76ers, right?
Yeah, there's 3 other guys in my position, and they're to, each team in Philadelphia, and we help each other. But for the most part, my responsibility is the Sixers content for not only our app, the My Team's app, but as well as the website, NBC Sports Philadelphia.com, and also working with our social media teams to have video content for them.
Yeah, so you kind of just take in all forms of which kind of, especially for my kind of age group, has become the only content we really take in. Anything that you could access on the phone or on a computer.
Yeah, and that's the battle is, TV is still the bread and butter of our business. And with, you get your TV contracts with the Sixers and the Phillies and the Flyers, and of course the TV contracts with football. So that makes the most money, right? But digital is the future, and our generation is interested in social media and the internet. And so we have a team together, constantly putting out content on that platform, but also keeping in mind that there's plenty of people still interested on the linear side of things.
Yeah.
To go back to your first, let's go back to your first question about how things have changed since this all went down. The first week was really a shock factor of like, what now? How long is this going to last? And then as we kind of, got settled, and we're all working from home, and got our technology as good as it can be from home, we pivoted towards, let's look at the glory days of the Sixers. Just speaking strictly for the Sixers, the glory days of the Sixers, their finals run in 2001. Let's look at their last championship in '83. Let's look at all their Hall of Fame players. We don't have new games, so let's look back and kind of give our audience a way to get away from all of the chaos and craziness in the world right now, and anxiety and stress, and just like enjoy these highlights, enjoy these, we're re-airing games on the network, and in the meantime we're reposting iconic interviews with these players talking about the game, or So it's been a lot of fun. The job demands creativity as it is, and just during this time of this sports hiatus, you've really had to take the creativity to a whole nother level.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you bring up creativity, because that was actually going to be my next question: is how different is that creative process? Because everyone that we've interviewed so far is obviously in the sports field, so they have to overcome no sports. But you, on the other hand, because you kind of focus on the digital age and, like, for a lack of a better term, like on the go kind of content, now no one's on the go. So it's like kind of like a mixture. Have you seen the way that you produce things or the way that you edit things kind of differ because of that?
Yeah, I think so, and it's changed as the weeks have gone by. I think that the sports audience, Philadelphia fans, there was actually like a fatigue of just old game content and re-airs of games. I think people were just kind of missing sports and kind of tired of looking back, and it was just like, well, what are we looking for? And it's really been a challenge to think out of the box, because when this wasn't going on, like you said, it was, you are creative, but the day-to-day grind of a new game, it helps. It helps you come up with the new stuff. And when there's nothing going on, I mean, it's just uncharted territory on top of trying to get eyeballs on what NBC Sports Philadelphia is making. So you just take it day by day and just throw everything to the wall that you can, and you see what sticks, and when it does, and you roll with that for as long as it lasts.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's the best you could do, right? So, and I agree with you, because I was definitely one of those fans really deprived of it. And again, like the younger demographic, this is a good opportunity for anyone that really cares about sports to kind of get a history lesson almost and see all those previous games, especially for the faithful fans of Philadelphia. But
that's been the mentality. It's like, okay, there are so many passionate sports fans, especially in this town. So let's take them to class, right? Like, we have this rich history of sports. Let's re-air as much as we can. Let's see what's in our video archive system that, we're fortunate enough to have with all of these players and coaches. And let's get it out in digital, because, back then, after they got an interview with, Billy Cunningham after the 1983 title, right? It went to TV and went to news, and then, maybe it was re-aired a couple times, but it's like, let's put it on Twitter now.
yeah, right.
And Twitter does the rest of the work in spreading it.
Yeah. No, it's a good point. I mean, it's either nostalgia for some fans or a history lesson for the others. It's really interesting. So another question that I've been asking anyone that's been able to sit down with us is, everyone always talks about going back to the new normal, whether that's coming or if it's ever going to come, we don't know. But they think that almost everything's going to go back to the normal beforehand. Do you see anything that's come from this pandemic that you think is kind of going to stick and stay as a new norm? A lot of people have said, like, more interviews of this fashion as opposed to face-to-face, or the access that people get during the games, because you have pretty much unlimited access to the Wells Fargo Center usually. So do you see anything in your world that is not going to go back to normal for a while?
It's a tough question. It is.
Yeah.
Specifically with us, it is so important, the face-to-face interaction for our writers, for having the cameras in the practice facilities and the game days and all that, that's going to be hard to take away, to give, the fans and the audience the same experience. Now, when it comes to interviews with the players, and I mean, this has been great. With a lot of these teams, we've gotten more access than ever, just talking to these guys in their homes and over Zoom. And I can see, especially during the off season, catching up with these guys. They all have the Zoom set up now, and if they're open to it, we're able to talk to Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid a lot easier when they're at their California home, during the off season. So I can see a lot with that, but during the season, it's hard to speak to. I mean, let's say when the pandemic coronavirus calms down and things are as back to normal as they can be, I would like to think that we're, back in the office and we got boots on the ground during game day and all that's back to as normal as possible. But I do think that getting everyone comfortable with, Zoom and other video conference platforms opens up a whole new window to just some awesome interviews and player access.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I forget who said it, but it's a lot simpler for somebody. I think it was Justin Walters actually that said it's a lot simpler for somebody just to open up their laptop for a 10-minute, 15-minute conversation than to drive an hour down and back, especially in like a packed city. So you never know what they could prefer from that. And it sounds to us that would be a lot better to do it from the comfort of your home. But have you noticed that players themselves kind of more positively or negatively kind of work with it? Like, are they this is kind of talking for everyone, a generalization, but like, have you noticed more trouble getting them through a Zoom as opposed to in person, or what have you seen?
No, I honestly, during this, for a while, the players couldn't get to the gyms, right? And or basketball players and, baseball players couldn't get to their training facilities and whatnot. And they had as much time to work with than we did, as we did, and stuck in our homes. So for a while, I think they got a little bored, and they were happy to talk, and they got very comfortable with all the new technology very quickly. So it wasn't that big of a problem, The biggest issue was when the players were comfortable to ask questions, because as the leagues were developing their return to play plans, and these, as we can see, these plans are ongoing as things change every single day. But us media want to know everything that they know, and they may just not know a lot. So that took the longest to get, access with these players, as they were just waiting for information as much as we were.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the craziest thing, because anyone I've asked about how in the loop that they were, it's almost nobody that really knew any of the plans before us casual fans even knew, which I think is crazy. Have you seen like for example, if they go to Orlando, would you be going?
I would not. I have so much capability at home, thank God, in terms of the game feeds and interview feeds and whatnot. I'm able to pretty efficiently do my job just from the home desk. But we don't know much about the media availability in the bubble. I think it's going to be very slim. I think it really is going to be the less people, the better. And maybe they'll be utilizing like Zoom, like we are right now, to after the game get these player interviews and coaches interviews back to the reporters, the beat reporters and whatnot in their respective cities. But that's not really clear yet. But I know for a fact that I will not be in Orlando.
Okay, good. Because that's one of the craziest parts, is that so all you people are so engulfed in the season with your teams, or sport for that matter, and you could very well be getting on a plane in a week and not even know it. Like, that's
you have a lot of people, in this industry doing it a whole lot longer than I have been, and it's like we're all in the same boat. Like, a lot of these longtime beat reporters and photographers and editors who have been, they're used to being that close to the action and then doing their job, and it's like you're now watching the game like all the rest of the fans are.
Yeah.
And let's hear your take on it. So, I mean, the challenges are not over.
Yeah.
They're not close to being over.
So, kind of going back to what you just said, when you talked about having the capabilities from home, I'm sure it's going to be an adjustment period, of course, but how similar is that to what you would do on a normal game? Because I know when you came to our classroom to talk about it, you would film what you wanted for the first half or so, and then kind of go back and do kind of that same style. So how similar or different is that process going to be, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we're still hearing the details with with our broadcast team of how many cameras is the TV crew going to have at these games. How many camera guys are they allowing at these games? So obviously I'm no longer filming anything about these games. So I'm relying on what our broadcast producer can feed back to me and how many options he has. In a typical game, back before all this happened, we would have at least 8 cameras rolling on every single second of every single game. But in this case, that may go down to 3 or that could be the same. It's just something that I don't know yet. But the biggest thing is I'm relying on the guys down in Orlando to be as creative as they can be, and then I'll turn that into video content for the fans.
Great. I mean, you've had a lot of success doing that in the past, so I guess the curveball that they're going to throw you, I'm sure you'll do fine with. So I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said we'll see.
We'll see.
Be prepared for anything, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of the last question that I'm going to ask you is, how prepared do you think your time at LaSalle made you for like where you are today and where you've already been? I'm sure you've talked about that time and time again, but have you seen anything that you could relate back to your time at your 4 years at LaSalle that might have helped you throughout the weirdness of this whole pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, specifically with working with LaSalle TV, the biggest thing is problem solving, and LaSalle TV taught, just putting together a show, and then when the show's going on, a technical difficulty, prompter goes down, whatever it may be, or you're editing a package for the show. It all comes back to problem solving. Like, that never goes away in your entire career, especially in this field. They say, no 2 days are the same, right? Especially during this time. Now, I can't say anything specifically at LaSalle prepared me for NBA during the coronavirus pandemic, but that's what I could say is the problem solving, being prepared to, think on your feet and just find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that goes through the LaSalle TV studio knows that you're basically leaving with a minor in problem solving. So, very good point.
Yeah, and then Tanya has a master's degree in problem solving. So.
Yeah, no, maybe even a doctorate by now after my last couple of years.
Right.
But, all right, well, Steve, this was awesome. Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. Hopefully everything goes well with the season. Hopefully the season even happens still. So, still so much uncertainty, but we all, both as a fan and as a friend of yours, I hope that it all comes back to normal and we have the full season by the end of the month.
It's open, Tyler, but thank you for having me. It was a pleasure talking with you.
All right, great. Well, that does it for this edition of One on One. We hope to see you next time. Thank you for joining us.